Hi, my name is Bruce, and this video is about moving a milling machine. I am the proud owner of this new mill, and the trick is to get it into place, basically mounted on a workbench. The mill weighs 320 kilograms or 750 pounds, and that's going to be a little bit tough to lift. And I don't have enough headroom to use an engine hoist or something. So this video is about how I tried to do it. So this is my long-suffering workbench, and the milling machine is pretty tall, so I've cut the bench in half almost to lower the milling machine and put in some 4x4 supports, which I hope will be enough to support it and take the vibration and so forth. So that's where it's going to go. Magic wand and levitate it into place. So I built this dolly because I knew I would have to move it around in the garage. The wheels are just casters, but they're 300 pounds capacity each, and the mill weighs 800 pounds, 750, 800. So plenty of capacity on the wheels, and it's actually relatively easy to move around with one person. So there it is in position up against the workbench, and the principle now is to elevate it vertically up until it's level with the final position, and I'll show you how that's done. So this is the principle that I'm trying to use. I've put on the side of the dolly a block, the bottom of which is a metal plate with a 3/4 inch nut on the bottom. This is actually the plate that will be the base of the support for the mill, and there's a jacking screw so that I can level it and put more support under it as the wood moves around that it's mounted on. But for now it's doing double duty here, and the idea is that I use this jacking screw to lift the whole dolly one side at a time. There's one on the other side, and I'll remove the wheels and put blocks underneath the dolly and then just jack it up one side at a time until it's at the height I need. So here we go, first lift. The motive power is just a cordless drill. Pretty straightforward. Important that the wheels on the far side are locked, because otherwise it would roll away. I tried putting a metal plate here to bear on, but the metal on metal tended to walk around, and I don't want this thing walking around. This just kind of bores a bit of a hole in the timber, and stays put, so that's fine. And in terms of tipping the mill, I've looked at how much tip would take. I've lowered the head of the mill as far as I can to lower the centre of gravity, and tipping the mill this much is absolutely no problem. I tried that before with a crowbar. There's plenty of the centre of gravity is nowhere near the tipping point. So far so good. And this is me trying to tip the machine over, pushing on the top. It's heavy. You can see I can lift it up a little, but it's definitely stable. So now there's the wheels off on the left side, and the first of my blocking underneath. I'm using concrete blocks or breeze blocks just because they're massive and will be stable, and they're relatively cheap. If you bought 4x4s or 6x6s, you need an awful lot. I've got to go up 33 inches. So the principle here is that it's now sitting on this corner and this block, the corner behind and that block, plus the jack screw. So that's a tripod. That's 3 points, that's fundamentally stable. Now the question is it stable enough? So if I push on the top of the mill and shake it back and forth, that's pretty damn solid. And if I push it front to back, same thing. There is no way I can tip that mill over. So now there are the wheels off the right hand side. So at the moment it's sitting on 2 blocks on the left and the jack screw on the right. So again, the tripod arrangement. And just to show how stable that is and maybe how heavy this machine is, I'm going to stand on the unsupported corner of the dolly. And that is rock solid, so I'm pretty happy with that. And now to drop the dolly onto the blocks, build up the packing under the jack screw, and then ready for another lift. And just one other detail, when I'm blocking up to get extra height for the jack screw, I'm crossing my blocks. I've put 2 blocks on the bottom here and then the bearing one here. It's more stable than stacking them on top like I've done over here. The jack screw, when it turns, it is quite dynamic and it pushes around laterally quite a lot, so I think you need quite a lot of stability in this direction as well as support in the vertical direction. So now I've got a concrete block under the jack screw, the idea being that as the support blocks go up, then I'll fit in more concrete blocks for a nice stable support, and there would have to be a heck of a lot of wood under there if I didn't have blocks. I'm hoping that by the end of this lift I will have a rhythm figured out, because at the moment it's a bit painful figuring out which blocks, in what order blocks go in where, because I have to lift less than 1 whole concrete block in one go, so that means intermediate blocking with wood and then up a bit more before the concrete block can go in. So there must be a rhythm somewhere, but I need to find it. Just a detail, I used a piece of 2x4 as the bearing block for the jack screw, just because it fitted in and the 4x4 didn't. But I also noticed, I don't know if it will show in the camera, but there's a crack right through the 2x4 here, and it's quite possible that the jack screw would actually punch right through and split the 2x4. In which case the whole arrangement would drop and lurch down by the thickness of the 2x4, so that would be bad, and I don't want to do that. I think on the 4x4 it's thick enough that it would not split it. So what I'm trying now is using a piece of ply as the bearing surface for the jack screw, because the ply won't split. Okay, so here we are, up and level with the workbench where it's going to be. This is the dolly here is level with the surface of the workbench. On this side I put shims to get the height right. On the other side it so happened that a combination of blocking worked out to be about the right height. I guess the garage floor slopes this way, so some shims over here, whatever. But now the trick is how to slide a 750 pound piece of equipment across rough wood into place. And for this, IKEA comes to the rescue. So this is a piece of junk board from the back of an IKEA bookcase or something. But it's got kind of a, it's got a laminate sort of a finish on it. So my theory is that if I place that under the mill on the wood, it will then be able to slide right onto the workbench where it needs to be. So that's the theory. Let's see. So bring out a crowbar, piece of wood to protect the cast iron. Oh, that was easy. Okay, so IKEA failed me and I could not move it. The laminate, the friction between the laminate and the dolly, the wood of the dolly was too much. I could not move the mill. So what I've done now is I flip them over so that the laminate is on the top, and I put some furniture sliders. These have, I don't think it's Teflon, it's probably polyethylene, but slippery plastic on the bottom, rubber on the top, being crushed into oblivion by the weight of the mill. But the plastic on the laminate, I'm hoping, will be less friction and enable me to slide the mill into place. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if this works. Oh, it's a miracle. It in fact works. Excellent. Don't like the crunching noises, but hopefully that's the laminate, or maybe it's my workbench, I'm not sure. So I ran out of slipway, and it's just a question of levering up with a wooden pad, of course, lifting the mill on one side, and then sliding slipway further in. Okay, so now for the final push. So there it is, the mill's in place. No strained muscles, no broken bones or emergency room visits. IKEA came through, I guess. The cardboard junk board is actually almost unmarked. The plastic sliders are a bit mushed, the rubber's a bit mushed where the mill crushed them, but in terms of the sliding surface, it's okay. And encouragingly, there are very little, there's very little marking on the dolly. This is just treated fence boards as planks, and they're pretty soft. But there are almost no marks from the mill, which means that the bearing pressure of the mill on the wood is low enough, is below the sort of the yield of the wood, and that bodes well for the workbench. I wondered whether to put metal plates under here to spread the load, but I don't think it's necessary at all. So, very happy with that. And then things evolved. I had to reconfigure my workshop because I bought a lathe and the workbench had to go, or at least be relocated. So I built a 2x2 steel tube, square tube frame for the milling machine, and that's what you see in front of you. Put some drawers in it for storage. The top is actually wooden, just for less welding and fabrication for me, and it was a simple job to slide the mill off the top of the workbench onto the top of the mill stand in the same way that I put it from the dolly onto the bench top. So that was easy. And then the mill stand is on wheels, but with jacking screws. So at the moment it's standing on its jacking screws, and if I need to move it, I just jack the screws up on, and so the stand drops onto the wheels, and then I can move the whole thing around. Pretty top heavy, so I have to be careful with it toppling, but it can be moved around pretty easily if needed. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found something enjoyable in the video. Bye for now.